What's going on everybody, my name is Rico, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my channel is about vlogs, series and tutorials. And in this episode I'm going to edit a photo from Anna Foy. She's asked me to edit her photo, or basically I offered her to edit her photo by a request in the Darktable Facebook group. So I hope you guys like it. Let's start. And this is the image that we're going to work with. Anna Foy has sent me this image and she had a very simple question, which was remove the darkness under his eyes and remove the redness from his face. So that's what I did. I'm not going to do every step again like I usually do. I'm just going to run through the modules and I'm going to show you guys what I've done. So I'm going to start with the color zones one, and in the color zones what I've did was I'm going to open it up. I've switched the hue a little bit and I've increased the lightness of the pixels a little bit, so of the redness pixels, and I've changed the saturation by quite a bit. I've dropped it down into the grays so the reds wouldn't be as red anymore. However, I didn't apply it to the entire image. What I've done is I've added a mask. So I've used a drawn and a parametric mask, and if you want to know which mask I've drawn, all I gotta do is press this little symbol right here, and here you see that I've painted all over his face. And I've used the parametric mask, the hue channel, and I've placed the color picker onto the reds in his face, and then it turned out it was right around here, so I changed the output and the input. I'm going to make a separate video about the output and input and the parametric mask, so that's for another time. So by doing this, I made sure that I just targeted his face and I just targeted the reds that I wanted to target. And after I was done with that, let me show you guys how the mask looks. So here it is. After I was done doing that, I feathered the mask a little bit and I changed the opacity. And the reason why I changed the opacity is to increase the denseness of the mask. So if I pull this to the left, which I can't do right now because everything that I've done will be gone. But if I move this to the left, you will see that this will start to blur out even more and become less dense. So that's why I increased it. So this shows that these are the areas, let me zoom in. These are the areas that are being affected by the mask. There's a little bit of bleeding over here, but I just consider that being collateral damage. It's in the shadow, so it won't really affect the image too much. I'll show you guys how it looks in a minute. So let me click this yellow symbol to deactivate the display mask, and now we just see the face again. Let me close down the color zones module. There you go. Let me put it back on fit the screen. And the thing that I did afterwards was I've retouched the image. So if you look at his face, you see that he has a couple of spots. So let me show you guys before. So here's the before. He's got a couple of spots over here on his nose and up here. And if I click the next one, so the retouch one, you see that they're now gone. Reason why I did that is because I wanted to smooth it out a little bit, just to touch it up a little bit, and just for the sake of this tutorial to show you guys how that works. So let me open up the retouch module. What I've done with this is I've used 5 scales. I've made a separate video about this, removing blemishes from the face and acne. I'll put a link up here so you can watch it after you're done watching this tutorial. 5 scales was enough for me. I used the heel selection tool and then I just click inside the image, move to the right a little bit, and that was the donor area. If I zoom in, I can show you guys, because here's the area that we're going to target and here's the donor area. So that's how I did that. And when you do that, when you remove a spot, so for instance, let's say I want to remove this spot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, hold it, drag to the left, and just make sure that this is the donor area, because you always want to get an area that's closest to the spot that you're removing. So I did that a couple of times in his face to make sure that I removed some spots. Let me go back to fit the screen. Let me close down the retouch module. And then I figured, what else can I do to this image? Because I've already dropped the reds a little bit. I've touched up his face a little bit. And I was like, I want to do something special. And with that, what I meant was I needed something to make sure that the rest of the image stands out more than his face does. So for that, I figured I'm going to experiment a little bit. I've used the contrast, brightness and saturation module. Let me open it up. And what I did was I increased the saturation by quite a bit, so by 20%. I've used a drawn mask. I'm going to show you guys which one. I've painted all over his face, including his hair. And then I increased the feathering a little bit. I've dropped down the mask opacity. So to show you guys what I've done, let me click this yellow symbol. And now you see his face is here and everything else has got a mask over it. And that happened because I've inverted the mask. And I had a very good reason for that. Because I wanted to make sure that I'm going to affect everything else except his face. And by doing so, let me click this symbol. Everything else got a lot more color except him. Which meant that, let me show you guys before and after. So I'm going to click the retouch. Look at the face of Anna. It's still very colorful, but they're kind of similar. Same goes for the background. The same goes for the woman with the red hair. But now if I select this layer, you see that everything is getting more color except him, which means that the attention is being drawn less to his face and more to the entire image overall. So after I've done that, I was quite pleased with how that looked. I figured I'm going to do some basic adjustments, and that's exactly what I did. Just some basic stuff. I increased the black level a little bit. I increased the exposure a little bit. I increased the contrast a little bit of the image, and I just dropped down the brightness just a tad bit because I thought it was pretty bright. Let me show you guys before and after. So if I click the contrast, brightness and saturation layer, you see that it's very colorful, but it still looks a little bit flat. And if I click the basic adjustments, boom, the blacks are more black and everything is popping a little bit more. And then I had another issue to address, which were the dark spots under his eyes. The most easy way to do this is using the exposure module. And you see, now they are pretty much gone. Let me open it up and I'll show you guys the mask that I've used. And you see that I'm using a drawn mask. I used 4 shapes. And that had to do with the fact that I had to change the brush sizes every now and then. So I've painted over this side with one brush, same over here. And then I've used a different size brush over here. And what I've done as well is I've increased the opacity a little bit, increased the blur a little bit, increased the feathering radius a little bit. Let me click the symbol. Now you see how that looks. So this is such a fantastic option in Darktable that you can just press this button and then see what you're actually changing up in the image. So I didn't want it to come off too strong. I wanted to feather it out a little bit because I don't want any halos under his eyes, because you guys would definitely notice. So let me go back, fit the screen. I see that something has changed over here. So let me undo something that I did, hitting Ctrl Z. So now let me click the symbol again to make sure that everything is still intact. Yes, it is. And then what I've done is, after I applied the mask and changed the opacity, changed the mask blur, changed the feathering radius, what I've done is I've increased the exposure with half a stop. And that made sure that, let me deselect this. Here we go. Let me close it down. Sometimes it takes a little while. So here's the before. So it's kind of dark under his eyes. And then with the exposure module applied, his eyes are a lot more bright. So I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Then I tried to do something else with the exposure one, but I turned it off. So let me show you guys the tone curve module. And the tone curve module doesn't seem to be doing a lot, but I'll show you guys what it did. So here's the tone curve module. Once again, I've used a drawn mask. I've used a lot of mask because I had to target his face specifically, because everything else is very colorful and looks kind of good if you ask me. So I used a drawn mask. Let me show you guys what I've done. Look, I've drawn a mask over his eyes because I thought they were pretty dull and they do have some tinkering in them. So I figured, why not try to increase that by using a tone curve module and then just target the eye. So click this symbol again. You see that it's just targeting this area and it's feathered out quite a bit. And then I increased the blur by a lot as well. I left everything else as is. Now let me click this and show you guys the difference. So this is with the tone curve module activated. Now let me deactivate it. There you go. So now the eye is a little bit more dark. Let me show you guys what happens, and just pay attention to his eyes when I activate it. And now it's activated and it looks a little bit more bright, still natural, but you can definitely tell from fit the screen that your attention will be drawn into the eyes more than when it does when I deactivate the module. There you go. So now it's darker. Once again, activate it and now it's lighter. And that's how I edited the photo of Anna. And that's it. I hope you guys like it. Let me know in the comment section down below. I had a lot of fun editing your photo, Anna. I hope you're very happy with it. If there's anything else I can do for you guys, just let me know. Send me an email, send me some suggestions, and I'll see what I can do. And for this week, there's only one more thing left for me to say, which is make love to the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that bell button to be the first to be notified when I drop in a video. And until next time, doei!